Hello all, and welcome to my simple face up tutorial video. Here we are going to be working on two of my face plates, pumpkin pie and pumpkin cookie. I'm going to show you some of the tools and supplies that I use and the techniques that I use. There are many artists out there. Not all of us use the same techniques, supplies, so I'm going to show you what I use. If you're starting into doing face-ups, I recommend watching as many videos as you can, as many tutorials. If you can take a class, that's great. And see what all supplies are out there and techniques that are out there, and then you find what works for you, because what works for me might not work for you. It's a learning experience, and you have to find out what works for you. So, let's go ahead and talk about the tools and supplies that you're going to need to do a simple face-up. Excuse me. Now, when you get your faceplate, you'll want to take some rubbing alcohol and cotton balls and clean off the entire face, inside as well, in the little eye wells. And typically, I like to go ahead and give it a nice bath with some Dawn soap, which here in the States, it removes a lot of the oils from the resin, like from the factory, and even from you just touching it with your hands. Now, as you can see, I have latex gloves on so that I'm not leaving oils on the faceplates. Okay? So that is the first thing you will do. Next is I'm going to talk about Mr. Super Clear. This is the sealer that I use and many ball joint artists use. Where I purchase it now is from Amazon. I used to have a supplier, but now I find it on Amazon. It's not the cheapest, but in my opinion, it's the best. You want to make sure that it has flat or matte is what you're looking for. Do not get gloss, because you're going to have a very shiny doll. So, to start off with, I always put a base coat of Mr. Super Clear on the blank face. And what that does is that protects your resin from any paints or pastels or anything that will stain the resin. So it gives it a little protection, and then that way, if you ever want to strip that face up off, you will have no problems. Now, for using this, you definitely need a respirator mask. You do not want to breathe this stuff in, and it has to be sprayed outside. And another issue with it is if it's high humidity, you're going to have problems with this. It either won't adhere to the resin, or you get a chalky coating. From experience, I have found that I can go up to 70% humidity and still work with it and be okay. And how I know what percentage of humidity is, again, sorry, I got this off of Amazon. This number right here will show you the percentage of humidity. Now, it's showing that it's high humidity, but I have in the past gone up to 70% humidity and not had a problem. So we are going to test this today. But it will show you, low, okay, and high. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do a lot of face-ups, get yourself one of these. It'll save you a lot of expensive sealer and aggravation. So let's go ahead and put those over there. And let's talk about some of the tools and brushes I use. So I always have one of these nice big fluffy mop brushes just to dust off lint and any hair or anything like that before I spray. Okay, you just do a light dusting. You're not going to scrub it or anything. So I recommend one of those just to remove lint and dust. The first ones I recommend doing, and you can buy these brushes at your local department store, or you can order them online. These right here are simple makeup brushes, okay? And these are what I do a lot of the base blushing with. You can see it. They actually say eye shading, eye blending, angled brow. So this one's a little more fluffier. This one is sort of my favorite for blushing. And this little angled one I really like. Okay, and I got these at, like, I think Walmart or Target or something like that. So any type of little makeup brushes, you can sort of see the size of them. Now, these brushes, some of them I got at an art supply store, like the detail brushes here. This, actually, maybe this is a nail brush because it doesn't have writing on it. Usually, if you're from an art supply store, you can find the sizes and the names and everything. Like this is a 5 round. And you can see, let me show you. There you go. You can see how tiny and small that is. So that's an art brush. This is an art brush. All of these, however, are nail art, for your fingernails. And you can usually purchase a set of these from Amazon. We'll pull out because I always have extra sets of these laying around. So you can order a set like this from Amazon. Now, granted, you won't use all of these brushes, but a lot of these little detail brushes, the angled brushes, those are musts for doing the fine details on face-ups. So those are some of my favorite brushes I use. As you saw, I have some of these makeup sponges. And I like these because of the little pointed edges that you can get down into, little tiny areas. So I highly recommend getting some of these. You can get these at anywhere. Drugstores, department stores, anything like that. Now, they do sell, you can get sponges in bags. I do have this one, and I do take some of these and I'll cut them into points to use them. So that's something else you can use. I think I paid either $3 or $5 for this bag. So that's something to look into too. Okay. Then we also have a few toothpicks. This is great for picking lint off while you're working on the face-ups. Tapered Q-tips. Love these. You can find them in some drugstores, but I hate to say this, but I think I ordered them from Amazon. I do a lot of this stuff on Amazon just because I know it's there and it's easy to get. So I definitely like tapered Q-tips. I might have some regular Q-tips laying around too, but again, you like these little pointed things that can get down into the areas that you might need to clean up. Okay. Another thing you definitely want to get, this is a lifesaver, these are kneaded erasers. You can even find these at like Walmart and stuff. You don't necessarily have to go to an art supply store for these. They'll come like this. They sell some bigger ones as well. And the great thing about this, see how nice and dirty that is? But watch this. You knead it, and it becomes clean. Okay? And then the great thing about it, look at this, you can shape it. I keep going to these little points. Look at that. Best thing ever. Okay, so now let's talk about the colors that I use. I have a few palettes here that I typically use while I'm painting. Again, you can find these at local department stores as well. Some of the pastels I use. I will show you. I'm trying to find the ones that actually have the wrappers on them, unfortunately. There we go. And then I'll shake this out before I start. And then I usually have some pinks for lips. You can get individual chalk pastels like this. You can get sets like this. And these are chalk pastels. Once you find certain colors that you like this is Dick Blick Art Supplies, Blick Artist Pastels. This Madder Brown I love for my blushing for the pumpkin dolls. So this is usually, I always get this. I always get a burnt umber. And then I'll get some different pinks for lips. And again, this is something you try out because even with the same doll with different skin tones, you know, this one's going to take a different lip than this one is going to take. So you get to play with it, and you get to play with color to see what you like to put on there. So these, of course, I bought from Dick Blick. You can order them online, but I like going to the store so I can see the colors. This set, even though I don't encourage buying a set because typically I think I use maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 colors out of this set. Maybe sometimes the black, but not usually. So you can start out with a set and work from there, and then you'll find maybe some favorite colors, and then you can go and get the individual sticks. So most of the coloring that I do on the face-ups are chalk pastels. Okay, and I'll show you more on that as we go. As you can see, I have a terry cloth towel down. This is usually what I work on, just my personal preference. Also, there are artists that use either chalk pastel pencils, or watercolor pencils. Okay, so that is also an option that you can experiment with. Again, you can buy them individually at an art supply store, or online you can usually get these as sets. Personally, I have found when you spray with the Mr. Super Clear, it gives you a bit of a texture, and I have trouble with the pencils because you don't get really a solid line with them. So I tend to paint my details on instead, and I'll be showing you that. But I can show you a little bit of the pencil just so you get a feel of how they work. Another thing I do is you can also use some acrylic paint. So right here I have a raw umber, so that's a brown, and I usually use this for eyeliner on the dolls, and that's pretty much really the only acrylic paint I use. I mostly use chalk pastels. So let's bring these over here. And let's go ahead and, whoops, I'm knocking things over. And if you're going to use pencils, you're going to want to have a nice sharp little pencil sharpener. I need my knife. Sorry. Another thing you're going to want to have, I have an X-Acto blade here, and I'll show you what I use that for with the chalk pastels. So, as I said, I typically start out with blushing, and that is with the Madder Brown. And all you go ahead and do, wipe that off. I'm going to start over here. You just take your knife, and you just real gently just scrape on the end. Okay, and you get this nice chalk pastel powder. And that is what you are going to work on. So I go ahead and take my makeup brush. Now you might find once you start working with them, and as I said, don't get discouraged. You can always strip this off. That's one of the things I'll show you right away. If you make a boo-boo, you can wipe it off before you seal it. So don't get discouraged. Play with it and see what tools and supplies that you actually like. So what I'm going to do is I just take this and I dab it into the powder. I usually dab it off on there so I get some of the loose stuff. And all I do to blush is I just blush it on like we're doing makeup. Okay. Now I'm getting some streaks on this doll, so I think I might need to re-clean her. So guess what? This is great. I get to show you how we are just going to clean her off. When I'm making tutorials, I love when I make boo-boos because guess what? That helps you to learn and not be fearful of making mistakes. Because guess what? That's how we learn, is by making mistakes and fixing them. Okay, so I'm just taking a little bit of alcohol on a cotton ball. And I'm going to flip this over, and while I have this, I'm just going to go ahead and give her another wipe. Because I might have ended up touching this with my hands and got some oils on there. So, let me go ahead and wipe that nice and clean. I mean, really wipe her down. Set her there. Okay, I'm going back to my cotton gloves. This is another thing I like to use sometimes, is just a cotton glove instead of the latex. I just have trouble wearing the plastic gloves. So sometimes you'll see me wearing the cotton gloves, which is also an option just to keep your oils off of the doll. And I don't know about you, but I really have trouble using plastic gloves while I'm trying to use the paintbrushes. Okay, so after that dries, I'm going... Okay, I saw a piece of lint on there, and all I did, this is another tool you can use. They're cuticle sticks. Just go on and ever so lightly pick the lint off. No matter what you do trying to keep it lint-free, you will always get lint in your sealer. Trust me. So you just give it a final look over, but just be very gentle picking it off because you can scratch the sealer, and unless you're putting freckles on, that means you got to strip it and go back. So we're going to go back and we will try to work on Cookie. Wow. And as you can see, this one is a tan skin versus the pale light skin. So this one, you want to add a little more blush to her. But go in layers. Don't, think you have to do it all at once. And once we get some blushing on here, I will show you, if you know what wig and eyes you're going to use for your doll, I highly recommend you trying those with the Faceup before you seal it. Because a blonde, blue-eyed little doll is going to have different coloring than, say, a brown-eyed brunette. And that's something you need to look at before sealing. Now I come in with my little angled brush. I love to do this with this brush. One of the things I do I even do this on my basics just because I like the blushing back here. Now, you might not even see it or know it's back there because you're going to have a wig on, but I know it's there, so I always like to blush behind the ears. Okay. Now, if you want, you can go in and, boy, this is really picking up on this. Put a little blushing right at the eye corners. And I have to come in there and take a little out. I am known for putting my fingers on these. You can come in here. If you see areas that you got a little too much color on, you can come in with these sponges, especially the little pointed ends. Because if you would come in with your eraser, that makes a definite line that you're taking off. If you just want to remove some and you want to blend it a little bit, I definitely recommend these sponges. Okay, so as you can see, look, just that little tiny bit of blush starts bringing her to life. So another thing I like to do, and I do this with an angle brush, and I'm doing this all with this Madder Brown. I like to come in here and just blush a little bit. And I always have another one to take off some of the. And all this is doing is just a little bit of shading. Okay. I like to come down in here and do the lip lines with some darker before I start adding the pale lip color, just to give some shading on there. Okay. See how that's just bringing her to life with even just the blushing. And as always, you make a boo-boo, you can wipe it off. Now, it'll wipe off this entire layer, and you'd have to do it again. I usually try to do like one color, then I'll seal, then I'll do the next layer. When you're starting off, maybe you want to, if you get the cheeks done and they're perfect and you love them, go ahead and seal it. It's not going to hurt to have multiple coats on there. So then I'm going to go in here and I could probably do this with a smaller brush than I'm using right now. I tend to get a little lazy and I'll use brushes that I just have in my hand. So you can come and get one of these little tiny detail brushes. Come in here and just blush up these. See how that's just, it just always amazes me that they just come to life in your hand when you're painting them. I like to come in, make sure I get some of that off, and just put a little bit on the top of the ear. Let's go back to the detail brush. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm just so afraid to try to do a face-up. If you're if you're stripping an already existing face-up, and then, you're just starting out, and you can't really achieve what you want right away, okay, that might make you a little nervous. But if you're starting with a blank doll, and you're just learning, which is what I suggest, you start with a blank, and there are loads. Like if you don't want to invest in an entire BJD right off the bat, there are people out there just selling the heads. Just buy a head you like. Practice, practice, practice. Everything takes practice to get better. Okay, typically, I might just put a little tiny blush on these smile lines. I don't typically, because the sculpt itself, the depth of it gives the shading. And just go back and look at everything and make sure you have it where you want it. Put a little red on her ear again. I think I want a little more here. There are people that blush up in the nostrils. I typically leave them unless they're super, super white. Even this doll. I might put a touch in there, but typically I leave them because the sculpt itself gives you the shading. Because I hate when you see one and they have these big black nostrils. Okay, so there we go. We have some shading on there. Some other areas that you might want to try putting a little shading. I usually try to just put a little dab up here on the forehead. Not too much, just to give a little color. Come over and put some at the temples if you'd like. Now remember, this is going to be a simple face up. I'm not showing you, really super detailed. I'm just trying to get you started doing face ups. If you know you're planning on doing some freckles, one of the areas I like to do is I'll just take and blush a little bit on top of the nose here. Okay. And as you can see, that brings that little baby to life. Okay. Now here's the point where I would recommend sealing it. If you're happy with this layer, I would go and seal it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber in spots. Okay, so I am adding a little of burnt umber in here. And I'm going to go ahead and scrape a little bit more than what I need right now because I know I'm going to be using this at a later point. Okay. So I will be taking that little detail brush that I was using and just take a little bit of burnt umber and put it on here. And usually what I do, you could use a little bit of purple in here, but I find the burnt umber works fine for me on the basics. Where I start adding like blues and purples, that's more the artist dolls that I work on. So I just add a little bit of burnt umber in there just to give it a little more pop. If you do put some up here, go very light on it because that can turn super dark on you real quick. So I just put a little hint of it, and then depending, sometimes I'll put some on the mouth crease. Okay, so this little girl is ready for, okay, I see a little stroke of dirt on there that didn't brush off, so we are going to pick it off with the eraser. Now, I'm going to go ahead and seal this. So, and then we'll go ahead and I'll add like a dark wig on here so that you can see how the wig can wash out the face, and you'll realize that you need a little more blushing on there. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of blushing right on her chinny chin. There we go. Okay, so she's ready to get sealed. Okay. Let's go back to old pumpkin pie here and see what's going on with her. And let's see if I got her clean enough. I'm glad I had that. Excuse me. I'm glad I had that where it wasn't going on, brushing on clear. That means that the resin is dirty and you need to clean a little bit more. You know, you look at it, you think it's clean, but it might have oils on it that you don't know about. So we're going to go ahead and grab a little more madder brown and go back on here and try this again. So what I'm going to do, this one, since she's so pale, I'm going to go by layers until and when you're photographing, that's a whole other topic to learn, is photographing your dolls. She's marked. Bless America. And I don't have one clean. Okay. Okay, as you can see, I am outside. I went ahead and put a plastic glove on because you really don't want the super clear getting on your skin. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so I'm going to just show you. I usually hold it with my hands and spray behind the ears. And then I go ahead and spray the face. And what you want to do is you're going to make short bursts of sweeping motions. Okay? Okay, so here we're going to show you what I was talking about with the effects of the color of wig. So I threw in some brown eyes for her. Okay, let's see if I can do this with not a full head. So, as you can see, the brown, I mean, she's okay. We could probably go with that. I'd probably add just another layer of blush. Compared to, let's go with like a lighter brown. Okay, so that definitely is good. So it's probably definitely be good with the real pale blonde. This, I think, is a little too pale for her skin tone. It just looks fake. But as you can see, compared to the two different colors, and it's more on the lighter skin dolls, if you go dark, it washes them out a little bit compared to the lighter wigs, and if you would have lighter eyes in there. So definitely try on your wigs and eyes as you go, and then that way you can get the accurate coloring you need. So I'm going to go ahead and remove her eyes so we can get back to finishing her face up. Okay, so let's real quick get this one caught up to the other one. Okay, so now we have most of the blushing layer done. Okay. Where's my little cuticle thing? I see another fuzzy. There we go. Okay. So, one of the next things, now this is where we're going to start more on the detail work. So, one of the things, we're going to do some shading for the eyebrows, and this is where you need to know what type of wig you are going to be using, because obviously for a brunette you'd have a little bit darker than you would say a blonde. So what I typically use is maybe let's try a little angle brush. I am going to take a little bit of the madder brown. So let's move this down some. And put this in here, and then a little bit of the burnt umber. Get that off your brush, and then come back in, grab a little more. Okay, now remember, don't get frustrated doing this, because trust me, I wipe off eyebrows when I don't get them straight. So what we are going to do, now I always brush these on. There are those that use pencil, which you can do, and then smudge it a little more, but I just prefer to use the pastel and blush it in. So I usually try to make the outside a little darker. And if you get this a little mussy, don't fret, because you can always come in with this and clean some off. You can clean it off with the kneaded eraser, but remember that leaves a stark line. So this is usually my go-to, where you can just actually wipe it off a little. And you have a nice smudged eyebrow on there to follow when we go ahead and put the detail lines on. So here comes the fun part, matching the eyebrows. Okay, so I usually turn it upside down, and I try to, and of course my hand's shaking, so that's going to make it even better. So this one I usually do get a little more mussy, because I try to just get it on there, and then I shape it to match the other one. And that usually turns out a little easier for me than, now as you can see, that one's a lot darker. But this way, you can go in and take some off and match the other one. Now, since this is a little darker, all I'm doing is I'm just taking the other end and I'm just placing it on top and pressing down and picking some of that color up. Okay, now that is pretty good. And at a certain point, you're going to just stop trying to make them absolutely perfect, because if you start studying faces, when you start doing face-ups, and especially when you start sculpting, and in the doll world, they expect these faces to be absolutely symmetrical. But if you start studying human faces, you'll notice that we are not symmetrical. There's always something a little off. So when you're doing these, try to make them as symmetrical as possible, but it's not going to be absolutely perfect every time. And the sooner you let yourself have that little bit of freedom, the less aggravation you're going to feel trying to paint these. So here we have a set of pretty good smudged eyebrows. Like I said, you get to a point and they're pretty close. Trust me, I am right there with you being a perfectionist and trying to get stuff exact. I spend most of my time nitpicking stuff. Okay, so what we are going to do, as I said, we want the far ends darker, just by a touch. And I'm guilty of this. Try not to blow on your doll pieces because sometimes you don't just get air. This needs to be a little more arched. Okay, I just wiped off what I just put on, and I didn't wipe off what I wanted off. What did I just say about nitpicking? This is what I'm doing right now. Okay, so now we are at the point where, okay, we're going to do a little coloration on the lips. This is the point where if you want more blushing, apply it now. Where'd my little brush go? Don't really need it, but I'm going to go ahead and okay. So now we are getting to the lips. Now this is where you start experimenting with some of your pinks. I have this color from my set that I like to use. So I put just the tiniest touch of that because it's a little dark. And yes, you mix colors. If you're going to do art, you need to learn to mix colors. If you're not used to mixing colors, you might want to purchase yourself a color chart so you can learn what colors work with what. Would help you out a touch. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of this. Can't get it on this brush. Ba, ba, ba. I'm just going to scoop it over there. How's that? And I might take just a touch of madder brown so it's not so pinky red. Yes, that's the technical term, pinky red. Now, there are two different ways you can apply some of these lip colors. You can just blush some on, which is what I start with. So I'm going to grab some of this that I just mixed up on one of these brushes. Now, since she's a smiling face, you typically don't see a lot, like real full big lips, because when you smile, your lips get thinner. Now, if you're having trouble getting on with a detail, you can come in with an angled brush and apply some there. So, and this is another one that you can come in and sort of blush the area, and then come in and definitely on the lips, you can clean it up. Now remember, this is just a touch of blushing to give you the idea of where your lips are. Okay, you can see, it's almost barely there. Now this is where I like the angle brush. I like to come up and make that little widow's peak. So it's not a widow's peak, it's a, I'll look up the term for that. So I like to come and do a slanted on both sides of the upper lip. And then that helps you form that little Cupid's bow up there. Okay, so this is barely there. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that as a base coat. Make sure the eyebrows are where I want them. Still not happy with that. Right there I see a little bit of okay. So that's going to get a coat of sealer right now before we start doing some of the details on the Okay, so another thing we want to do a little shadowing on. I'm trying to remember what colors are what on here. Okay, so we are going to take your burnt umber and madder brown. Now remember, this is a toddler doll, so we're doing just basic blushing. If you are working on, you know, the teen or adult dolls, you're going to have a totally different palette. You can start doing lipstick, different things like this. This here is just a more natural look for a little child. And it's to get you started doing face-ups. Like I said, this is a simple face-up. So what I'm doing is just putting a little bit of Okay, so here is Pie, and we need to get some eyebrows on her. And I'm thinking I'm going to do hers since she is a paler skin. I'm just going to go ahead and do hers in the madder brown. And then that way, if we want to do her a little more fair-haired, or even a redhead, she looks adorable as a redheaded with freckles. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just putting a little bit of blush on the eyebrows. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Now I gotta go back in and clean that up some. I think I got this one eyebrow a little higher than the other one. So all I'm going to do on that is come back, blush it a little lower, and then I can come back here. Actually, I might add this and make it a little fuller. I like the look of that. Okay, so we have the eyebrows blushed on that. Go ahead and add a little. Okay, bing, bing. There we go. Now I get to do some lips on her as well. Let me see what we have here, because this might be a little too dark for her. Not too bad. So on the bottom lip, I typically just put a nice little U shape, the lower lip. And remember, we can come back in there and clean that up. And then for the upper lip, again with the angled brush, a slant here. And a slant there. Okay. Now that's just a little blushed. We're going to come back in and do that. So you get the blushing in first. That gives you your base. Where is my other one? Let's see if I can clean it up with this instead of using the... Okay, and as you can see, she has her lips and her eyebrow blushing, so she's ready for a spray as well. Okay, so remember, before you go ahead and spray her, you're going to go ahead and give her a nice dust off, as well as this one. And what that does is that removes a lot of the lint and dust from the air. So these guys are ready for their neck sealant. Okay, so now we are going to be starting on the details, which are the eyebrows, the eyelashes. We're going to add a little more to the lips. Excuse me 1 minute while I pick some. No matter how hard you try, you always end up with lint. Now, one of the other things that I would like to recommend as you get older, another little lovely that I purchased from Amazon. Now, this is lighted, but I have a problem with the batteries make it a little too heavy and it sits on my nose and bothers my sinuses. So I typically just use it with a light at my workspace instead. This nice thing, it has interchangeable lenses, so you can adjust the magnification. And also, it comes with where you can use them as glasses that you just put them on, or a band that you can secure it to your head. So I really recommend this if you need a pair of magnifying glasses to do detail work. So let me clean off these lenses, because that helps a little too, having clean lenses to see through. Okay, so yes, unfortunately, I need these magnifiers to do my detail work. And I see all the nice little lint and dust that is on here as well. This little bugger is a little difficult. I need a okay, let me see how this one's doing. This one's not too bad. I see something down inside the eye. Okay, so I don't know why I just started this as a habit. This is the palette that I like to use when I start adding the water, because I put my powders in here and then I put them in here to mix the water, so you still retain the dry powders. You might find you like it. You know, it's up to you what types of palettes you use. I'm going to keep this brush out because we're using this for the lips. And these are the two brushes that I am going to be using for the eyebrows and eyelashes. I would like to say I definitely always use this long liner brush for the eyelashes. You'll find when you start painting, one day they work with this brush. One day you may want to use this brush. So if it's not working at one type of brush, try something different and see if that works. And then there are days that they're just not painting days, and you just need to put it aside and go work on something else and then come back. Trust me, it'll save you aggravation. So I'm going to go ahead and take this glove off and get us some color. As always, we're going to use some burnt umber. So we're going to use a little bit of this. And that gives you a nice real dark brown. In my case here, I like to use this lighter brown. If you have like a redhead or a blonde, sometimes I like to put something a little lighter in there. The more, you don't want to go totally overboard on the colors, but using multiple colors in your eyelashes and eyebrows gives you a little more depth to the painting. Okay, and then this is white. And what I use for this is sort of my little secret that I'll put just a couple strands in the eyebrows and eyelashes, and it comes off as a highlight. Just makes them pop a little more. As I said, you just got to practice and see what you like as an artist. So let's go ahead and start working. Hopefully I won't hit my camera because I got to get pretty close up to the doll with these magnifying lenses. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll start on the eyebrows first. Okay, so of course you need to have your cup of water, which mine is somewhere back here. Okay, and all I'm going to do is dip my brush in the water. You don't need a lot. So I usually take it there. I'll just grab a little bit of this. And as you can see, you sort of almost use it like watercolors. Okay, and you want that tiny little detail brush for the eyebrows. So what I typically do is I'll start back here and just go real light. Okay, I need a little more color in that. I need to move this over here. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated here. Some water in there. And make sure you don't have water up on your brush, that it'll and you can always try your lines out on the side of your palette to make sure. Now, unfortunately, I need reader glasses for my regular viewing and magnifiers for the... It's really hell getting old. You want very light. I'm going to try to see if this is going to focus on here and let you see this. I do like these Charvin Paris pastels. They really work nicely when you're watering them down for the detail work. So you're going to keep making those little tiny brush strokes out to this edge. You want some unroly ones, you can have them go a little bit toward the other direction, just to get a little fancy. Don't worry if you made one a little long. Just come back and remove that. And definitely don't think you're going to get this on the first shot. If you do, you are like the master eyebrow maker, and you need an award. This takes lots and lots of practices. You know, you're doing a real super light flick to get these eyebrows. Now, so most of them up here are just going this way. Then once you get toward maybe about midway, you're going to bring them, and it's almost like you have V's toward the end here. Okay? Now, you could stop right there and leave it. By all means. It's sort of up to you how much detail you want to put in your eyebrows. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this lighter stuff. Ooh, this might be... That might be what I use for the redheads. And if you're not going to do a redhead, you might just... Go ahead and put this in here. I have a thing for redheads, so I do a lot of them. But you can throw just a few in there just for some not saying that you can't just have one color on your eyebrows. That's fine too. And this is where you get to the point it becomes an art. Okay, well, where's your stopping point? And you'll get to a point, sometimes you don't go far enough, sometimes you go too far. I'm leaving that there. That is a really nice looking eyebrow. And then you come over here and try to make it symmetrical. This is really the hardest part in painting dolls, is trying to get eyebrows and eyelashes symmetrical. And, you know, they do not have to be twins. Siblings, yes. Sometimes you can even get away with cousins. But trust me, if you try to make them identical, I'm not saying you can't, but that's where the art of this comes in. That one I made a little fuller, I think. Take a little bit off. And then come back and do your V's at the end. Okay, and that gives you a really nice little eyebrow. And another thing, so this is doing a BJD and painting on resin. But I also use these chalk pastels when painting on polymer as well. And I use the Mr. Super Clear, same thing. So it's not just, you know, for resin. You can use it for other mediums. Okay, now we're going to go ahead with that white. Now, if you are afraid of messing the layers, by all means, you can go and seal these in between the layers. But I'm just going to, and you just come in, and I got a little bit too much. So if you got a little too much white, you can come in and actually remove some of this. Okay. So that is how you are going to do the eyebrows. On this one, I'm going to start with this medium brown. I don't want to do any of the darker brown because she's a little pale. Actually, I might go ahead and mix some of this in and make it even paler yet. And we're going to do it the same way. Start in the middle, brush some eyebrows out. Now this, you're going to be able to see a little bit better than on the tan. I'm not having much luck with this brush today. Don't worry, I'm going to take some of that off. It's a little Groucho Marxy. Don't you love my terminology I use? Okay, so this is where this comes in. Got it a little dark? No worries. And you can always come back in with water and lighten it up a bit too. Okay. And I'm going to take a little bit of this. And a little bit. I like to end up mixing my powders together. That way you don't have to have as many. I don't know. Might end up being a redhead. Okay. Ooh, that's what I wanted to show you guys with the pencils. A lot of people do their eyebrows with pencils. I just find I end up liking the... Okay, now I did these a little dark, so hopefully you can see them. But if you can see, you never get really a solid line because it's skipping over on the texture of the resin, or the sealer on the resin. So that's why I prefer to do the brushing. Now, watch what I can do now. Don't like that? Just wet your little Q-tip and off it goes, and you can start over. So this is what I say to, those beginning. I said, don't fret if you're not getting the look that you want right off the bat. You just wipe it off and try again. So, whoops, where are my glasses here? We're going to mix, because I'm not liking that color for this. I was going to do her up as a blonde, and it's just not cutting it. So we're going to add a little white and see if we can't lighten this up. I added a little bit of the medium brown, some of the real pale tan, and then some white, and we're going to see what we're going to come out with here. This is where it's fun. You get to try different colors. You never know what you're going to come out with. That's better. And go and put your V's in. Take a little off. And that looks a lot better on that nice pale skin. Now, if you are doing a pale skin with, say, the darker brown, like you want a brunette, I would say just do a little darker blushing on there. I had planned on this being a paler palette on this doll, so that's why I didn't really go real heavy on the blush. Whoops. And sometimes you get a little heavy-handed, you just come in and wipe that off. Okay. And I'm going to come in and add those, whoops, might help if I clean my brush off, huh? I'll come in and use some of the white. Add a little more there. I'm not getting enough on there. Like I said, I just put that in there just because it grabs the light every so often and makes it like you have some highlights in there. Okay. So that's how you do the brows. And like I said, you can even practice this like on your palette or on a piece of paper. Just practice doing them, and that'll help you when you go to do the final doll. Okay, so here comes the, whoops, you know what we need? Well, no, we're going to do the eyelashes first. Now, we are going to try using the liner brush. Okay, so you go ahead and get that wet. Eyelashes tend to be a little darker, so we can go in and do the dark on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it down in the eye, and then you just bring them out and flick them out. Okay? Now, once you get over, depending on how your doll's eyes are, like mine here, you can't really get them over top of this little crest here. But that is how you get those super thin. And you come back in, do maybe another row of that brown. If you get some that you don't like, that didn't really turn out the way you wanted them, come in here and take it off. And if you're worried about messing up your eyebrows, definitely seal those first, because you don't want to mess those up if you have them how you like them. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave that eye, work on this other one. So right now for this doll, I'm using the medium brown, because as I said again, I'm doing her a little paler. Okay, so get a few strokes on there, then you come back and add some more. So I think I'm going to leave that. We're going to move over to Cookie here. And Cookie, I'm going to do these darker lashes. So, Because this burnt umber is almost like a black. I really should have put that in with another brush. Yeah, you want to get all of the little specks of powder off there. Now this brush is working today. You're probably laughing at me. It's working today. Sometimes I have great luck using this liner brush. Sometimes I have to come in and use this brush because I'm just not getting the lashes the way I like them. By all means, you could probably use a little bit of both. If you want those nice wispy lashes, I find that this liner brush works a little better. But sometimes you want a lash where you're just not getting it and you need a little more control. That's when you come in with the detail brush. Okay, and you don't have to go overboard on these. You want them to have a nice wispy to them. You don't want them like this. You don't want them like that, okay, like drawing lines on there. That's why you want to have that little bit of flick with your, there. Even with this short brush, when you're doing this, you're still going to want to put it down here and bring it up and flick it out. Now that's a little too thick, but and that's where you get that nice little wispy end on the end of your eyelashes, so they look more natural and they don't look like Betty Boop eyelashes. Am I dating myself talking about Betty Boop lashes? Anyone younger watching this is probably like, who? It's an old-time cartoon. Go Google it. Now, if you're going for that look, by all means, paint them that way. But they would be more stylized. They wouldn't be, you know, maybe you're going for a cartoon look and you want your lash to be sort of like this. You know, that's fine. But when you're trying to do a more natural look, you want that little wispy end to make it look a little more natural. Okay, then we're going to go in with some medium because we like different colors on here to give it a little more depth. And I've had people ask, well, why aren't you using the add-on eyelashes on these dolls? When I first started sculpting them, I did try them with those lashes. I just didn't like the look. These are supposed to be little toddlers, although little kids do have gorgeous lashes. The add-on lashes just looked too fake to me. So I decided to do them this way and paint them on. And don't forget your bottom lashes. Now these I would do with this shorter brush, the detail brush, because you don't want, just want a few down there. Now this one will not have any liner on the bottom, so you will have, they just come straight from the edge. Now this, oh no, I guess they're okay. Okay. I'm going to leave them like that. I'm going to go grab some white and add some of the white on there because I like to add that on the eyelashes as well. Okay, and just gives it a little more depth. We have some, oh, and of course it was a speck of charcoal, or pastel. Okay, so we still have to do a little lip work on this yet, but we're going to set that one aside, come back to this one. I really I think I am going to go a little darker on these. I just don't. Okay, don't forget your bottom lashes on this one. Whoops. And what did I just say about those stark eyelashes? Guess who just put some on her doll? Hey. Even the pros make boo-boos, and if they tell you they don't, they're lying. Everybody makes boo-boos. That's how we learn. Yeah, these. Now, see? Would you rather have nice light, nice, oh, why won't that focus on here? Nice light wispy ones, or do you want these caterpillars? Yeah. So, just wipe that off, come back, and put some nice little wispies. And that one got a little too long, so you come in and wipe that up. Okay? Now, you're probably looking at these and saying, oh, they're still, those eyes just don't look right. Well, that's because we didn't do the eyeliner yet. And you'll probably ask, well, why aren't you doing that first? I've noticed how I do my eyelashes when I'm sticking my brush in there and sweeping it up. Sometimes I'll end up hitting that eyeliner, and then I have to go over it anyway. So you can put a layer of eyeliner first, then do your lashes, and then come back in and put a second coat on. That is fine as well. Let me put a little... brighten up some of these. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay, now for the eyeliner. This is when you bring in the, if I can find it here, the acrylic paint. Okay, your raw umber, burnt umber, any darker brown. I typically go with the dark brown, not a black. Looks more natural. Now this little speck, that is way more than I need for 2 dolls. So you just need like a dab. Okay, we are going to, I have a particular brush that I always use for this. And of course, I didn't get it out. For this acrylic, you are going to want to mix it with some water. You want it thicker, but you don't want it super thin. So how we are going to do this, let's put these over here. Okay, so I have some of the acrylic on here. And what I typically do is I just use the side of the brush, and I come in here at the corner, and I just, if you have a nice sculpted rim, this is super easy to do. So I just go from one corner to the other with the side of Okay. So, if you want me to show you, put the eyes in here so you can sort of see the difference. If she wasn't cockeyed. Okay, so you can see how this eye does not have that eyeliner, but this does. So it just gives it a little depth and shadow to that really makes the eyes pop. And most of the ball joints out there, you will see that they have what is called eyeliner. Now, if you're going for a more adult doll, yeah, you'll probably do it differently than this here. Now, I just got a big blob there. So what we're going to do is finish this off and then come back and use a little bit of the Q-tip, and we're going to take that off. Okay, and that's how easy that is to fix that. And you can always come in and pick some off that way as well. And I just got paint all over my... This is why I can't keep nice, neat workspaces. Now, depending on oh, I need to do the other one anyway. Okay, I am still trying to clean this up slightly. So as you can see, you can just come in here and wipe some of that off. You can even wet your cuticle stick and come in here and take some off. And there you have that. So all this one needs is a little more on the lips. Let's go in and do again, we go from one edge of the eye to the other. More paint in there. Okay, and you can even see just without even the eyes in there how that just adds to that. This looks bare compared to the other one. You can always add a little more. And if you notice, I notice on the real pale dolls, sometimes you'll get it and it won't do complete coverage. The acrylics dry so fast, just go ahead and let it dry and then come back and add a second coat. And that's all you need. Okay, so there's a little pie with her. Okay, now let's go ahead and do some of the lips. Now, depending on how you would like to color your, why am I picking up this one? Depending on how you would like to color your lips, you can always just keep blushing them and just have it as a blush. I need to switch palettes. There we go. That might help. So you could just keep blushing these, and what you want to do is just keep adding some color on there. Now, on a doll this small, I don't try to go in and, put lip lines and, you could if you really want to. I typically just try to blush out. If you end up getting a little dark in the corners, you can always come in with a little bit of white and just put white right in the middle here to put a little highlight. And what that does is that brings the front of the lip forward, and then the corners back away from you. Dark colors recede, light colors advance. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with those lips. Another thing you can do if you really want more of a distinct line on your lips, you can come in with a detail brush, water some of this down, and you can come in and put more of a definite line on these. Don't worry, we're going to come back and blush some of this out. Okay. And then that gives you a little more definition on your lips. As I said, for these smaller dolls, I like to keep it pretty simple with the blushing. Okay. We're going to go over to little pumpkin pie here and grab a little bit of that. And again, we are putting a U shape down at the bottom. And your little Cupid's bow on top. She has really pretty lips. Cookie, the smiler, thins it down some, so can't go too wild on those lips. These you can actually add a little more to it. Okay, come back in here, clean it up a bit, and she's pretty good. Now, if you want a little more definition, you can come in with, but don't go too dark. You can actually come in here and put a little more shadow in the crease, just to give it a little more definition. Okay. Now, for these, we're pretty much done on these simple face-ups. Okay. So we're going to put one more coat of sealer, and then I'm going to show you how you gloss the lips, and that will be the last step before you add your eyes and your wigs. Okay, so now we are on to, okay, she's still drying a touch. Okay, so what I typically use for gloss varnish for the lips is just any type of water-soluble gloss varnish that you can find at your craft stores. Yes, you can buy art grade, but I have found this works absolutely the same. I typically keep a rubber band around here because I have one brush that I use for the gloss, and it stays with my bottle. So, all we are going to do with this is just typically go in here and put it right in the middle, and then from there I can just drag it up. And I just gloss right the lips. I don't go into the corners. Okay, I need just a touch down here. Now, do make a boo-boo on this, wipe it off right away before it dries. And you typically can get that off. If you get too much gloss in here, just wipe the excess off on your brush and come back in here and dab it a bit, and that takes it off. So this is just to gloss. You can come in here and place some so that it looks like their eyes are wet. Just don't go overboard on this. This is more like an artist tip that I use just to make their eyes look just a little bit moist. But as I said, don't go overboard or, it'll look like they're crying. Unless you're going for that route. But that just gives it a little gloss and makes it look like their lips are wet. Okay, she's dry enough that we can go ahead on the lips. And as I said, this one, she has a little bit more lip to play with. So, I'm going to make sure get those nice full lips coated. So what I did there is I just put a sort of a blob of varnish on there and then went and wiped my brush off so that I can control it a little more. And basically I'm just sort of pushing the gloss out to where it needs to be. Looks like a bubble in the gloss. Don't want that. Okay, so look at it from all directions. Make sure that it's what you want. And then, as with the other one, we'll go ahead and give her a little bit in the corners. And then come back and just a touch down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some eyes and wigs in. Okay, so here we have our pumpkin pie and our pumpkin cookie with their eyes in. If you notice this one, even though this is for a simple face-up, basic face-up, she is on an artist body, and my artist bodies come with a blushed body. I taught you how to do the blushing here, so you should be able to do the blushing here. And I always like it because, look, you gotta have a cute little bob. Okay, so the next stop is extra little tip. I'm showing you how to put your eyes in, how to put your wigs on. One of the things I use for my dolls that I sell, these are called silly strips. And they're little strips of silicone. There is a woman on Etsy that sells these. So if you go on Etsy and look up silly strips, you can purchase these. I typically use 2 per doll, and I cut them in half, and I place 1 here to hold the wig, and then I will end up putting 3 more. You can go with 2, but I just like to give my collectors a little extra and give them some extra strips on there. So, okay, now we are going to go ahead and place a wig on. And how I typically place them on is I turn them inside out. I place it on the back here and go ahead and slip it on. Sometimes it'll go on nice for you, and then sometimes you really have to play with it. So, as you can see, this coloring on this doll turned out really cute. She has some darker eyelashes and eyebrows that really look cute with the brunette hair. And let's see what we want with, I think that's even a little too. Let's go ahead and put a see, I don't have the silly strips on here, so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the wigs on. I really recommend them, not only for helping to get your wig on, but for keeping them on. This really isn't the wig that I wanted to put on her, but we're going to use it on here for now. So, as you can see, this was a simple little face-up to add some color to your doll and to get you started in this hobby of doing face-ups. And I hope you have fun trying it on your dolls. And any questions, you can always shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So I hope you guys had fun. I hope you learned a lot, and see you soon.